Hey guys, today I'm coming at you with one of my most requested videos. People are always asking me how I read so much because they generally want to increase their own reading, and I did make a video on this about 2 years ago, and I don't know, I feel like that was the beginning of my booktube days. I didn't even go back and rewatch that video. I don't remember the tips I gave in there, but I have come up with 20 tips for increasing your reading / how I read so much. If you want to be brave and go back and see me from the first year of my time on booktube, I'll leave the video linked, but you're braver than me because I'm not willing to do that. But who knows, maybe I shared some tips in there that I'm not going to be sharing here. So if you want extra potential tips, you can check it out. It's just a little awkward. I was sending people to that video when they were requesting this video for a long time, but now I realized, or have just decided, I need to make a new video. So just to give you like a little brief look into my life, I guess, I'm not the kind of person that can just sit around all day and read. That's not why I can read so much. We all have busy lives, but just to give you a bit of a look at my life, this last year I went from having 3 kids to 2 kids to 4 kids to 5 kids to 3 kids to 2 kids because we foster, and there's a lot of ups and downs. We're currently not fostering. I only have 2 kids, but I also am like a digital content creator, so I work online, I homeschool my kids, I'm involved in my church, I'm currently coaching 2 soccer teams, so that's 2 nights a week right there, involved in a bunch of other things. So my life is busy like everybody else's, and yet I have still managed to read 200 plus books from the last few years, like each year. I have set a goal to read less each year for the last few years, and I just keep hitting that 200 mark and bypassing it a little bit. So if you want to read more, apparently that's what I know how to do. I do not know how to read less. That would have to be somebody else's video. Okay, so I managed to come up with a list of 20 different things. Some of them kind of play off of each other. Some of these will work well for some people, some of them won't. I think pick and choose a couple that might work for you, give them a try. If they don't work, try something else. It's a lot of seeing what works for you. Okay, so not necessarily in any particular order. I think these are all really good, and I think almost all of them. So number 1, take a book with you wherever you go. This is a no-brainer. In my mind, if you want to read more, you have to have a book available. I purposefully go to doctor's appointments 15 plus minutes early with a book, and then I get a little annoyed when the doctor's like ahead of schedule and I don't get my reading time in. I try to always have a book with me wherever I go. And this leads into number 2. So I am a physical book reader, like that is my preferred method. But my number 2 is to read on different mediums. So sometimes I will not be able to bring a book, like a physical book, but I often have an ebook going, I often have an audiobook going, and you might find that one of these works better for you. But even if you find like your niche, like for me, physical books, I still like to have the other 2 going, because sometimes if I'm driving, I can listen to an audiobook, or if I'm suddenly stuck somewhere, then I have an ebook I can read. So I can read more in situations where I maybe didn't even think I would be able to. My number 3, I learned this as a child. My bus ride to school was an hour both ways, or an hour and a half both ways. I don't even remember now. An hour, I think. It was long. I had a lot of time to read. So this tip is to read in short bursts, and I know, like, obviously I had an hour, so that doesn't seem like a short burst, but there would be a lot of interruptions. And even now to this day, with a bunch of kids, when I've had a bunch of kids, I'm okay with picking up a book and maybe getting interrupted and only having read half a page. If you are the kind of person that likes to read an entire chapter at a time, I would like to push you out of that comfort zone, because the little bits here and there do add up. So if I have supper going on the stove and I know I've got a few minutes before I have to do like the next portion of it, I will grab a book and read it in the kitchen, and I'll get like a page or 2 in, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you add it up over the course of the week, all the different meals you make, it does add up. And I think if you're waiting for like that perfect opportunity for you to sit there and read a chapter, those don't come around very often. Most of my reading in my past has been because of my short little bursts. Okay, tip number 4 is to try different genres. I have always loved reading, but there was definitely a period of time after university where I was burnt out on books. But I wanted to start reading again, so I started picking up some of the really popular books, the books that I don't know if I felt like I should be wanting to read, or they were just kind of like the ones that were in my face, you know, like you got Oprah's book club books and that kind of stuff. And I really quickly found out those are not for me. And it took me a while to like try some different genres to kind of find the area that I like with my books. I don't stick to one genre. I actually prefer to read, generally I don't read 2 books from the same genre in a row. I don't know why. I just like to spice it up. So if I've read a historical fiction last, then I'll go into like science fiction, and then I'll go into like mystery or thriller, and then like a manga. I like to switch it up, and I found that I like a bunch of different genres, but I don't like them all at one time. So I think trying a few different genres, seeing what works for you, what you prefer, will help you to read more. Okay, while having reading in short bursts can be beneficial, I would also recommend setting aside some time to read. So we have recently started very, very loosely observing a Sabbath where we are trying not to, I don't know, for me, I guess a lot of my stuff I do online is kind of like part hobby, part like really fun, but there is 24 hours over the weekend where I'm not doing any kind of online work, and this has given me a lot more time for reading. So find some time in your day where you can squeeze in a little bit of reading, and then either your day or your week, and just know that that is your reading time. And then to take that one step further here, why not think through your schedule and see, or not even your schedule, just the way you spend your days. See if there's something you can give up and you could fill that time with reading. So do you have a tendency to check all your social media before you go to bed, or with your cup of tea in the afternoon, do you, I don't know, read the news or something? Maybe like something like in those spaces you could read instead. Reading is my preferred entertainment. We don't watch a whole lot of TV or movies in our house. We watch like a few a year. Mostly I just prefer to read, and so that is partly how I read so much, is I don't watch a whole lot of TV. And I'm not saying you should never watch TV, but if you want to read more, you often have to give something up. So see what you're willing to give up in your day. Okay, I think I'm on to number 7, and that is to do reading sprints. Now, these are actually common in the booktube community. People will host live reading sprints. Krista's really good at this, where for 15 minutes you're reading, and then often 15 minutes it's a chatting type thing. But you can do this in your own life as well. Maybe for 15 minutes you read, for 15 minutes you clean your kitchen, then you come and read for 15 minutes, and then you go clean your bathroom, or whatever it is you need to do. Those reading sprints I find help motivate me to get my cleaning done, get it done faster, and then really enjoy my reading time. And it doesn't have to be 15 minutes, it could be 20 minutes or half an hour, or whatever works best for you. I know some people like to read in longer stretches. I'm a 15 minutes kind of person, but do what works for you. Obviously you are trying to read faster, so if you're going to do the things that I prefer to do, it might not help you. Okay, number 8, this one can get tricky. This is something that just came naturally to me as someone that loved to read as a kid and had to sneak in my reading because I never wanted to do anything else other than read, and that is just to read faster. My friend and I remember this very clearly in grade 5. She was a very slow reader, I was a very fast reader. So one evening we went home with our books and we each decided to try each other's method. And it turns out I just like reading fast. I don't enjoy reading slow. So I know that Murphy has a video all about how to read faster. She has some really great tips in there. Some of the things that she was talking about when I watched that video, I feel like that was over 2 years ago already, were things that I do naturally. I didn't even think of them as like techniques to read faster. But yeah, she has a bunch of different techniques in there, and I would highly recommend watching that. Number 9, be okay with DNFing, or do not finish, a book. It's okay. You do not have to read the entire book of every book that you start. If you're bored, if it's got content that you're not interested in, if you find yourself just not wanting to read the book, quit it. You officially have my permission to set the book aside, put it in your like unhaul pile, bring it back to the library, whatever you need to do. You do not need to finish every book. I will often find sometimes there's not even a reason, I'm just not really gravitating towards a book, but it will start putting me in a reading slump where I don't want to read because I feel guilty that I'm not reading this particular book. But as soon as I decide like, no, I'm not reading it, then I'm free to read other books, and then the speed picks up again. Okay, halfway mark here. Number 10 is to create a TBR, but don't feel like you have to stick to it. So ever since I joined BookTube, I have been creating monthly TBRs. Some people online call these a pile of possibilities if they're not going to stick to it 100%. In my opinion, reading is just for fun. I don't really feel like there's any of my reading goals or things that I do that I feel like I have to do 100% if I'm not enjoying it. Like, this is for enjoyment. So I find creating a TBR is really good because I'll pick, I don't know, let's say 10 books a month. And then throughout the month, I'll just pick whichever one I'm most interested in. And if at the end of the month there's some books and I just find, oh yeah, I'm actually not interested in this book, I can just bring it back to the library or be done with it, or I can save it for a different month. But I find having a TBR gives me like a lineup of books that I want to read next. And because I have like a book on deck, then I don't get into a reading slump wondering what I should read next. I have tons of options. And you don't have to do this as a monthly TBR. You could go into Goodreads and just put in all the books that you want to read sometime. What I have is pretty much all the books in my basement in my office here are books I have not read. This is pretty much like my unofficial lifetime TBR. Then upstairs where people can see my books, I like to have the books that I have read so we can have conversations when they come over if they're interested in a book or want to borrow a book or want to talk about something. So this is another way I have a TBR. We've got so many ideas going here, my battery died. So now we're on to number 11. Set a goal or not is what I wrote down. So you can feel free to set a reading goal for yourself. Every year I go onto Goodreads and I create one and do what works for you. I know some people like to set their Goodreads reading goal to 1 book a year so they accomplish it very easily. I like to push myself. I actually don't remember what my goal was from this year. I think I already hit it. It was probably like 125 or 150 books. I wanted to push myself, but I was also trying to read less, like I said. I'm pretty close to 200 now already. But do what works for you. If you haven't been setting a reading goal in the past and you want to read more, try setting a goal. Don't beat yourself up if you don't reach it. Maybe you'll get closer than what you originally would have if you wouldn't have set a goal. Every month on my Patreon, I do a page count reading challenge where we just set a goal of like how many pages we want to read. Sometimes it's a week-long thing, sometimes it's a weekend. I'll just pick a random number out. We're actually doing one right now, and I think I picked 800 pages. Do I think I'll get 800 pages done? I don't know, but if I'm at like 700 pages, then I'm gonna be like, oh, but if I just do 100 more, I'll get to 800. I think it will push me, but it's okay if I don't get it. It's fun. And reading is supposed to be for fun. Unless you're in university, then I think the whole idea is to bore you to death. At least that was my experience. Okay, speaking of Patreon, join a community. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a great place because there is a whole BookTube community. Once you can find a booktuber who reads the kinds of books that you enjoy or has a personality that you enjoy watching, chances are they'll mention other ones in their videos, and then you can check out those ones, and you'll be amazed at how many booktubers in every single genre there are online. And it doesn't have to be a BookTube community. It could be a Patreon community. It could be, there's communities on Goodreads, on Instagram. There's a whole Bookstagram. I think TikTok, but I am too old and have decided I'm never going to even attempt TikTok. So, you know, I hear it's a thing, but I don't know personally. And then while you're joining in on a community, join a reading challenge. So for the last 3 years, I'm about to announce the 4th one. I have been doing a yearly reading challenge where I give a prompt for each month of the year and you read a book based on that prompt. And then I always do a giveaway with it because I just think that's fun. It originally started because I had a bunch of books on my shelf that I wanted to read, and then it's just become a fun thing for me. And I have joined other people's reading challenges, and it creates this desire to obviously fulfill the reading challenge, and then therefore I end up picking books that are different than maybe the ones I would have read that month. And there's month-long ones, there's year ones, there's weekly reading challenges. There's so many. Last year I did make a list of reading challenges, and then I totally forgot to keep it updated. So for 2023, I will have a post on my blog, which is heyreader.me, and I will keep it updated. And then I'm also going to be sharing in my newsletter each week reading challenges that are coming up. So that's on my goal list for 2023. If you sign up for my newsletter, which is in the description, then you can kind of like be in the know. Speaking of community, my number 14 idea here is to share what you're reading. So I'm thinking like share it online, wherever you are online. If you want to just share it on Facebook, I don't know if anyone uses Facebook anymore, but if that's where you are, share it there. If you want to share it on Instagram, share it there. You don't have to create a whole separate account. You can, but you could just share it with the people that you're currently chatting with online. If you want to start a booktube channel, that has been so much fun in the last, I'm almost at my 3-year anniversary here. It has been so much fun to see people that were just commenters to begin with, and often I didn't have like a face to go with the name, but then to see them starting their own booktube channel and being able to watch their videos, and it's been so much fun. And so however this works for you, just share what you are reading in some way. Maybe online, maybe just with friends. Speaking of friends, ask a few of your friends for their favorite books, and then read them. You might find that your friend has very different tastes than you do. That's okay, you guys can have conversations about that. Or maybe you'll find a friend that has some really good recommendations for you, and then they'll maybe have even more recommendations. Okay, my number 16 is to leave your phone somewhere else when you are reading. If you are reading on a Kindle, this will work, but if you do an e-reader like a tablet, this might be a little bit more distracting, but I'm just thinking like remove the distractions. So sometimes I will put my phone on like the kitchen island so that if I want to quickly check something, I have to think, okay, like I have to get up. Is this worth it? Often it's not, and I just keep reading. So just leave your phone somewhere else to eliminate distractions. That helps me read a lot more. Okay, 17 here is go either way here. Either try reading just one book at a time, or try reading multiple books at a time. Whatever you're currently doing, try the opposite. So for most of them, I feel like I kind of go up and down. When I was younger, a teenager, I would just read one book at a time because I would read them so fast, it didn't matter. And then when, I don't know, maybe like when I hit 25 until this year, I would often have a few books on the go. And I thought I really enjoyed that. And then in the spring, I tried an experiment where I read only one book at a time. This is like one physical fiction book. I would still often have an audiobook, although sometimes it would be the same one I was reading physically. And I would still have like a nonfiction on the go. But I would have less books on the go at a time. And I found it immersed me in the story more, and I enjoyed my reading experience a lot more. My natural tendency is still to start all the books, but I find I generally enjoy it more when I can focus on one or at least fewer. Right now I'm reading one physical book, but I also have like one physical classic as well, and a nonfiction, and an audiobook. But I feel like I have like the one main book that I'm reading, and I enjoy that. Figure out what works for you. 18. Read from more authors that you enjoy. This has been kind of a revelation for me in the last few years. I've found some authors I've really liked, and then I've promptly bought and read all their books. Some of them I still have to finish reading all their books, but I've bought them all, and I just know that those are going to be good reading experiences for the most part. I found some authors that I find are very consistent, and because I like 1 or 2 or 3 of their books, I've been liking all of theirs. So find some favorite authors and then try to read all their books. Okay, we got 2 left. This next one is buy cheap books if you are uncertain. So this last year I've been pre-ordering books from authors that I love because, like I said, I feel like I can trust them. But then there are a bunch of authors that I want to try that I'm not sure if I'm gonna like, so I don't want to waste my money. Also, feel free to completely use your library as a bonus tip here. Libraries are great. I use them all the time. But if you want to buy some books, try thrift stores, little free libraries, book outlet, wherever you can find cheap books. And then if you decide that book, that author is not for you, it's not like you wasted a ton of money on it. That always helps me feel a little bit better. And then I can just go put those books into a little free library, and it's not as painful to do so. And then the last tip, number 20, I'm not sure this is any better or worse than any of my other tips. I maybe should have ended on a bang. But, well, I do like this one. Create a little cozy reading corner, nook space for yourself. So in the last year, mine has kind of changed to our sofa, like this one corner on our sofa. We've got a very comfortable article sofa. Not sponsored, but I do really adore it. It's nice and deep, so I can like snuggle up. I've got my heated blanket there. I've got an end table where I can put my hot cocoa. It's just really, really great. I've got a mug with like highlighters and pens and things if I want to write anything down. And that is just like my comfy spot. I've made it a space where I want to go and I want to read. I've got a lamp there. So just see if you can find a place that would be cozy so you're not distracted when you're reading, thinking, oh, like I want to find a different position or a different place to read. Find a place that you enjoy reading. Hopefully these 20 tips will help you guys read more, enjoy your reading more, if you want to. I'm not saying you have to read more, but if you want to read more, hopefully this helps and gives you a little bit of a look into how I read 200 plus books a year. And if you guys have additional tips, please leave them in the comments. Sometimes the comments can be a gold mine for additional ideas. So thanks so much for being here.